Everyone, welcome back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to do authentication and authorization for your .NET REST APIs. So if you haven't watched already, I have already created a video on how to create simple REST APIs using .NET Core web APIs. In this video I will show you how to authenticate and authorize your APIs, like how to create Json Web Token so that APIs are authorized or authenticated, and also I will show you how to do password hashing as well. So do watch my previous video because I have explained that how to create REST APIs in detail. In this video I will just cover the important part of it, like authentication and authorization in detail. The rest of the part I will just skim through it quickly. So first I will show you what exactly I'm doing. So this is one endpoint for getting all the users which are present inside my database. Okay, so this is just for demo sake, but this is an API which is kind of like a registration API where I can create a new user. So suppose I enter some unique email ID, and if I enter the email, so here as you can see I'm passing the email ID as well as the password, and if I click on send I get a JSON Web Token. Now using this token, so there is another API which I have created for login. So again this is mostly for checking whether the hashed password which is saved inside our database is correct or not. So if you see ignore this, like here I was this was just part of my debugging before doing password hashing, but here you can see I have hashed my password. Again, this is just for demo purposes. You shouldn't really expose your hashed password to the outside world as well. Okay, so here as you can see, once I log in, I will get an I will get a token, but if I enter a wrong password and it tries to compare with my hash password, then you will get an error. Okay, so here in this user creation or user registration login you get the token. Next like this is again a simple REST API which I have created for getting email and password. Okay, ignore this as well. Now this is an important, so for creating a new movie you would require a user token. Again, now creation of this movie is not associated with this particular user's token, but the user token is required. So that is the important part. So if you don't pass the token, you will get an error while creating the movie, sorry. So if I pass, I'll enter some new name. Okay, I don't know what's a new movie, I guess Blade Runner. Okay, and if I click on send, then I'm able to do it. If I remove this authorization, then I get an error. Okay, now if I want to get all the movies, again I need the authorization here, the JWT, and if I click on send, here you can see Blade Runner was created as well. So yeah, that's what we will be covering in this video. So first you will have to create a .NET project. So for that you will have to install .NET inside your OS. That you can do. And next, once you do that, you just have to run this command .NET new web API -n and whatever you want your project to be called. So here I have used my app. Next you will have to add few dependencies to your project. So this is how you add dependency. First we require the entity framework core, then we require Postgres database because I am using Postgres database, then we require automapper for mapping all the models which we have created, then we require entity framework code design as well, and this JWT and JWT bearer is required for our JSON Web Token part as well. Next you will have to go to app settings.json. Here you will have to add connection string for your DB connection. So here host would be whatever is your database host. Port mostly for Postgres is 5432. Database name should come over here. Username, here it should be your username. Password, here it should be your password, and I have set the SSL mode equal to require. Now for JWT, here you can add your key, whatever makes sense to you, like it should be a secret key, and here issuer, again you can add your company name or whatever makes sense to you. Again, this is like these things are important, but you can use whatever makes sense to you. Okay, once you do that, so add connection string. Okay, next we have to create a model folder. So if you see over here, I have created models folder. Inside that I have created two C# files. One is for user, so user has an ID, a email and password. Okay, and these are like just attributes, like this would be a primary key, then email would be should follow email address, maximum length is 255 and it should be required. Similarly for password as well. Next for movie as well, I have created an ID which is a primary key and a name. Okay, So yeah, that's it for model. Next we have to go to our data folder. First we have to create interface. So first I have created interface for our user repo. This is for saving changes, one for getting list of all users, one for getting user by its user id, and one for creating a user. Also for iMovie repo I have created one for saving changes, one for getting all movies, one for getting movie by id, and one for creating a movie. Then we need to use this movie user context. So depending on however many models you have to create a context on this. Now the naming is little bad, but yeah, you can name it as db context or whatever makes sense to you. So here we are passing a db context option, and here we are creating a db set of movies, of movie models, so movies, and similarly we are creating for our users as well. Next we are creating SQL user repo as well, and which implements the iUser repo. So I'm like implementing all these methods which we have created. So first we are getting the movie user context, and for creating a user we are just calling context. What is this? Okay, so context.users.add and passing our user. And if a case of user, if user is nil, then I'm throwing an exception. Similarly for getting all user, you just pass context.user. For getting a user by id, just pass context.users.first or default, and you can pass whatever is the id and compare it to the given id. And for saving the changes, we just call context.savechanges greater than equal to 0. Similarly it is done for SQL movie repo as well. So here again I'm extending iMovie repo, and same thing, create movie, get all movies, get movie by id, and save changes. So it is exactly the same as SQL user repo. You might want to create one base class which does the both thing, but I have kept it separate just to avoid confusion. Otherwise it trying to reuse code the same way might lead to more confusion. That's why I have kept it at least for my own sanity. Okay, so we have created all this. So this is done, this is done. Next we have to create our DTOs. So I have one created for movie create DTO. So it just takes a name. Okay, for movie read DTO, it will give us back an ID as well as a name. For user create DTO, it will take an email as well as a password. And for user read DTO, it will give us ID, email as well as a password. Okay, so that's done. Then we have to create controller. So first is for user controller.cs. So here you can see that the user APIs are hosted on /API/user. So whatever is your domain /API/user. And here I have created our user controller, which takes user repository, mapper as well as configuration. So I have just initialized those all stuff. And first is getting all the users, which is a get endpoint. So I'm just calling repository.get all users, and it returns us mapper.map enumerable user read DTO. Similarly for creating a user, which is kind of like a registration, firstly we are initializing this password hasher, which is present inside, I think, identity ASP.NET Core. And here I'm just calling password hasher.hash password, and I'm passing our email as well as our password. Only the password will be hashed. So this hash password requires a string user. I'm not really sure what this is, so just for simplicity sake I have passed it as an email. I think it might be a key, but yeah, it's fine. Only the password will be hashed. Then I'm creating our model. Then I'm assigning the model's password to our hash password. Then I'm calling this boolean user exists. So I'm just calling repository.get all users, just checking if the user.email exists inside our database. If it already exists, then return a bad request. If not, create a user, do save changes. Then we call this user read DTO. Okay, and here we are using this JWT algorithm. So I've just copy pasted this code from Stack Overflow. And here we are creating a claim. So this token will actually contain the user's ID. If you want to add email, you can add it over here as well, just like I have added ID, but I think ID is fine. And if you see, I'm passing the claims over here while generating the token. So once the token is generated, I'm just calling JWT security token handler.write token, and once I get the token, I just return it back to the user. Similarly for login as well, I just pass the email, and if the email does not already exist, then I just send unauthorized. Then same thing I do over here. So here as you can see, I am just verifying our hash password, so I am passing the same email ID. Here you have to pass your user password, so if you see the documentation, which is the hash password, and here you have to pass the provided password of the user. Okay, and once if the password not equal to valid, again I am returning unauthorized. And here again I am using the same logic which I have done before, like for creating JWT token, and I am sending it back to the user. And this is for getting the user by user ID. If you are curious, you can use this as well, even though it is not authorized. Next, you will have to go to movie controller. Now this movie controller is kind of extremely similar to what user controller is. The only difference is I have added this authorize attribute as well, or annotation, whatever you call it, so that all the APIs inside this movies are authorized. Okay, so similarly same thing, it is located in /API/movies. To get all movies, you just call repository.get all movies and return it back to the user in form of enumerable movie read DTO. Similarly for creating a movie, so for getting all movies I am not using this authorization. I mean I am using this authorization, but what is present inside that authorization token, I really don't care about it. But if you, for most of you would care about it, because from that token we want to get the user ID, right? So for that I have done this over here. So even though I'm not really using the user ID, I'm just checking if the user ID is not equal to null. But in your case, you might be using it as a primary key while creating your movie, or as a foreign key, sorry. So to get that first we need to get the token. So I'm just doing authorization header over here, and then we just remove these barriers as well as the space, and from that we just get the token. Then we convert it to JWT security token, and from that we just we just get the claim out of it, which is our ID. So use the same key which you have defined it on the while creating the so here you can see I'm using the same key over here. I think this can be simplified as well. You can just use something like this. Okay, next, if the user ID is not equal to null, I'm just passing I'm just creating our movie, like create movie, save changes, and then I'm getting the movie which was created and returning it back to the user. So for that I'm using this. Okay, so that's done. Next, so I have shown you. Next, go to profiles. So here you will have to create the profiles folder. First you will have to create user profile. So here I have just created a map for user read DTO. For user create, you will have to use user. Okay, and for movie as well I have done the same thing. So I have created a class called movie profile, and I have created a map of movie and movie read DTO, and for create map again for movie create DTO to movie. Next, what you will have to do is okay, profiles. Okay, next we'll have to go to program.cs, and here you can see first I have added all these imports. Next, I have created our I configuration, builder.configuration. I have added cors. Then here you will have to use this JWT issuer as well as JWT key, because if you remember inside user controller we were adding this as a dependency injection, right? I configuration. So from that, because of this, we have to use this JWT issuer as well as JWT key, which we have added inside our app settings.json. We want it over here. Then I have just added build.services.add authentication JWT barrier token. Okay, and here again I have just copy pasted it from the documentation itself. Next, this is for our Postgres database. So pass the movie user context and pass the DB connection. Again, be careful, whatever is the name over here, use the same name over here. Next, I have added our controllers, I have added our auto mappers, I have added the scope for iMovie repo, SQL movie repo, iUser repo, SQL user repo, and I think this is present by default. I have removed that weather code which is present by default, and I have also added this bit of code, and I have also added this use authorization and use authentication, and add this if not present, and add this as well. Okay, once that is done, make sure you have this installed globally inside your uh, OS. If not, you can run this command. If you already have this, you can just run .NET build inside your terminal, cd to your project, just to make sure that there are no issues inside your code. Once you do that, you just have to run .NET EF migration, add initial migration. So what this does is it automatically creates table for you inside your database, so you don't have to worry about it. So first you have to create migration. Once you run this command, then it creates automatically a table for you. Suppose later on you might want to change your models. So suppose inside models you added some more key, or maybe added some made some changes, so then you can't add initial migration again. You just have to name it differently, maybe initial migration v2, or give it some different name, and then run this command again. If you want to remove migration, you can run this. Now to finally run the application, you can just run .NET run inside your terminal. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.